Welcome to our 24th episode of Two Tankers and a Cat. We're your hosts. I'm Charlie.
And this is Russell.
Russell, I know we've got a few announcements. It's kind of short this month. We don't really have that many announcements. We were talking about our live streaming, our game live streaming. I know a lot of our listeners are like, we don't listen or we don't want to watch you play digital tanks. but the ones you do, feel free to hit the follow button on there and watch us.
And get out there and check it out. It may turn you on to one of the games. I mean, that's kind of how I started. I went and watched some streaming.
Well, you know, it's like we've had a couple of our older friends of the show basically message us and say, hey, you're talking about these video games and I'm just too old. And I'm like,
no.
But I'm 53 and broke down, you know.
You're never too old to get on the computer.
And like World of Tanks, all you do is like click, you know. It's not like
and you get to blow shit up. I mean, what more can you ask for?
That's right. And it's really not that advanced. I mean, we got, 4 keys and a clicker?
Yeah, it's not bad.
So
if I can do it, I think anybody can. So.
If I can do it. We want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters and our PayPal supporters. We've had a lot more people join. We still need a ton more people to join.
Hey.
If we're going to be able to pay for our airfare to Bovington next year, we're going to need quite a few more. But we got good old Andy Crow, ODS Thero at the Stewart level. We got Rick Schmid at the M4. We got Bjorn, Ben, Kevin Shin, Kyler Montgomery at the Abrams level. So we're doing good.
We really are, and very, very appreciative of these folks that's supporting us monetarily.
Yeah,
it means so much to us.
And we want to give a shout out to Mark Sunday. Yep. Man, I'm killing his name, and he is just a cranky dude.
Yeah. But
his name is Mark Sonday, and his wife Joyce. He's the owner of the Russell Military Museum that we went and seen up in Zion, Illinois. What a great guy. Yeah. Just super great. and has the funniest stories. But I went up there and we're walking through, and like I said, I saw this M1 Sherman or M1 Abrams. And Sherman, I almost sounded like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But no offense, Mr. Trump. Yeah. We still need your support. Please help us out. But I see this M1 Abrams, and I'm running up there, and I grab it. I'm like, oh. And then I notice it's just sheet metal, and I start looking underneath. It's a Centurion.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what? What is this?
Oh, wow.
From the movie Fire or Courage Under Fire.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where Denzel Washington's driving the M1 Abrams and he accidentally kills another M1 Abrams tank. Yeah, that's what they used in the movie.
Oh, man.
They actually went to this Mark Sonday, Sonday, and I'm sorry I'm killing your name. He said he was going to listen to the episode, and he's like, really?
Yeah.
And I'm like, would you believe that's half the show that I get everybody's names wrong and the cities wrong and tanks wrong? But he's the one that sent it to him, and they did all the the movie and stuff. That's
awesome.
And it's sitting there, so it was cool that I got to see the movie prop.
Sure.
But then I was like, that wasn't a real. That was movie magic. We're going to have a guy in New Zealand that's going to be so mad at me. I can't remember his name. He messaged me and he goes, hey, I told my wife that you guys were giving me a shout out, and she didn't believe me. And he says, and my brother is a police officer. And I'm like, oh, I forgot to write his name down before I came to the studio today. So if you were listening, we're actually going to finish up our episode with a little bit of the New Zealand tank. But if you'll get the mic or the radio in front of your wife and say, yes, we are talking about your husband. He has a brother, he has been contacting. He's an amazing guy and we love him. I'm wanting to call him Tony. But I'm going to go, he's going to go, you forgot my name. You hate me.
No.
I'm like, no, that's not it, brother. There's one thing wrong. I guess this guy from New Zealand, he found a tank that beat my Lee as the tallest tank.
Oh, hell no. No. I might as well just give up now if that's the case.
I don't know, but let's go look at it.
Man.
But, okay, let's go with the first key point. We're going to talk about the 105 millimeter howitzer motor carriage, the M7 Priest. Here's the kicker. The Priest was another British name or a UK name.
Another UK name.
The Americans said, it's the 105 millimeter howitzer motor carriage M7. And the British were like, well, there's a little thing on top that looks like a pulpit. So we'll just call it the Priest. And I'm like, that. And again, the British beat us on naming stuff. We're just like, oh, it's an M7.
I know.
And we're like, but how lame is that? We should just let all the British stuff, or British just name all our stuff, you know.
Yep.
And the second point is, what's taller than the Lee? The Lee finally loses its tallest tank crown.
Boo.
Boo. After all, 24 episodes?
I know.
You know, what episode was this again?
Yeah, this is
24th.
Yep.
After 24 episodes, we finally have the thing. And it's the guy that I can't remember his name in New Zealand. And I'm like, I don't like you anymore.
Man.
But anyway, okay, Russ, let's get started and talk about the M7.
The 105 millimeter howitzer motor carriage M7 was an American self-propelled artillery vehicle produced during World War II. It was given the official service name 105 millimeter self-propelled gun, Priest, by the British Army due to the pulpit-like machine gun ring. So the British named it the Priest and not the Americans.
So the British, again, have the best. They're the best at picking names.
I know.
And
I agree.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russ.
The U.S. Army realized that they would need a self-propelled artillery vehicle with sufficient firepower to support armored operations. A 105 millimeter howitzer, and this vehicle would have to be armored and fully tracked.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. It's, you know, the Americans were starting from scratch, and they had the Stuart at the beginning of the war for like a recon car, and they had the M4 Sherman as their regular tank. If people would look at this in a different way, they had the Stuart as their frontline tank. Mm-hmm. They had the Sherman as their basically heavy tank. I hate saying that.
I know.
But they didn't have anything to support those guys.
Yeah, sure.
You know, so they're like, we're going to need a mobile artillery piece or a self-propelled gun. So they came up with this Priest. Well, we had to go to the British to get a cool name. But
yeah. It was decided to use the M3 Lee chassis as the basis for this new vehicle design named T-32.
Here's my Lee.
I know.
So they are like, okay, we're going to use the Lee because
at least they built it on the chassis.
Yeah. So
it's the least they could do.
10-foot tall bulletproof. Go America!
The pilot vehicles used the M3 chassis with an open-topped superstructure, mounting an M1A2 105 millimeter howitzer, with a machine gun added after trials. The T-32 was accepted for service as the M7 in February 1942, and production began that April. As the M4 Sherman tank replaced the M3, it was decided to continue production using the M4 chassis. The M4 chassis was a development of the M3. The first M7s were produced for the United States Army, and 90 M7s were sent to the 8th Army in North Africa, which was also the first to use it during the Second Battle of El Alamein.
All right. So let's talk about the M7 Priest that we saw at Fort Seal. That was the very first time you'd ever seen one.
Yes, very much so. And I was really impressed, to be honest with you.
I'm positive that the one at Fort Seal was a Sherman type, But the one I saw up in Russell, at Zion, Illinois,
yeah.
was the M3.
Yeah. Don't forget, didn't we also see one at Fort Bliss?
Oh,
I think they had one down there.
And I think that was Lee one. So we've basically seen both variants.
Yes.
And we're going to add pictures to our Facebook when this episode comes out, so you guys can take a look. It's pretty intimidating.
It is.
You know,
I was really impressed when I first seen the first one that I seen.
And a 105 with high explosive, it'll do its job.
Sure
It'll blow big potholes in the road. But if you got the Stewarts out there doing light tank stuff, recon, and they're running into stuff, and the M4s are like, oh, we found something heavy, like big time. Then these M7s would pull up and start dropping 105s on them, and that was about the end of that.
Get their attention.
Well, Russ, tell us about the stats.
Yeah, they were manufactured by the American Locomotive Company, Federal Machine and Welder. They produced between April of 1942 and July of 1945, and they built right around 3,500 of them. Whoa.
So out of all the thousands of things that are building, as mobile artillery pieces, 3,500. I think what was
pretty good.
3,489 was what it think, but I think that went up with some other stuff and test vehicles and stuff. So right around 3,500.
Yeah,
that's
not
a lot of artillery.
It's not bad at all.
Get into the specs.
Yeah, they weighed almost 50,640 pounds.
Whoa.
Comes out to 22.97 metric tons. They were about 19 foot 9 inches long, or 6.02 meters. They were 9 foot 5 inches wide at 2.87 meters, and that included with the sand shields.
Yeah, you got to have sand shields.
Yes. The height was about 8 foot 4 inches, or 2.54 meters, and that went up to 9 foot 8 inches, or 2.95 meters, over the anti-aircraft machine gun.
Right.
It had a crew of 8. The armor varied anywhere from 12 to 62 millimeters. And like we talked about earlier, the main armament was a 105 millimeter M1, M2 howitzer.
Now, how many rounds did they carry for that?
They had 69 rounds that they carried with them.
You said 69.
Oh, no. I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
The secondary armament included 150 caliber or 12.7 millimeter M2 Browning machine gun. Carried about 300 rounds of that with them.
That would be pretty good for anti-aircraft.
Yeah, that'll mow something down.
If you're sitting in the trees and they suddenly spot you, when it got down close,
Sure.
Yep, I can see that.
It had a Continental R975 C1/C4 engine. It pumped out about 400 horsepower. It had the vertical volute spring suspension, and it had an operational range of about 120 miles or 193 kilometers.
So pretty good.
Not bad.
But what kind of speed are they talking about?
We're talking about a measly 24 mile an hour or 39 kilometers an hour on the road, or 15 miles an hour or 24 kilometers an hour off-road.
Now, I know the M7 Priest, besides World War II, we also used it in Korea. But it didn't do really well in Korea because of the mountains and stuff like that. They couldn't elevate over the mountains. So they'd actually have to drive up almost to the other side of the mountains to shoot. But again, that's starting a more modern warfare.
Sure.
And this was basically just to support, ground troops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in Korea, that was a totally different deal.
I know.
And then the M7 actually finished up its career in Israel.
In Israel? Wow.
Yeah. They moved them out there. Israel's got a really big tank museum.
Oh, I know.
And we really want to go to Israel.
That's on the dream list.
Yes. Yeah, we really want to go see that. But the M7 was used over there in the beginning, and you know what? That again goes to prove that the Americans, made it to last, made it easy to work on,
Sure.
and pretty simple to ship.
Yeah.
So that's why these things stuck around. You look at a lot of the other tanks and stuff from that war.
Yeah.
They didn't last and go to different countries a lot.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good talk about the M7.
Heck yeah.
It was just a good artillery piece.
Sure.
And I play my little digital game just like you do, and we hate artillery.
Yeah.
So everybody's listening, going, "I can't believe those guys did an artillery episode."
Unless I'm in a pissed off mood, and then I do like playing artillery a little bit.
Then you can make fun of everybody. We're going to bring up the second point of the episode, and the only reason this gets put in, and I cut my SPG priest episode a little short, is because of this guy named Tony, and I'm almost positive that's his name. And I should have got his whole name, and I apologize. If your wife still doesn't believe you, email
Exactly.
2 Tankers and a Cat. We will send pictures holding up your name and your brother's name.
Sure.
But yeah, Tony is from New Zealand, and he's a very cool guy. And he's a friend of the show, and he was saying, hey, my brother's a police officer in New Zealand. And he said, but I heard you give me a shout-out one time, and my wife didn't believe that you were talking about me. And I'm like, okay, we'll do an episode coming up. It says, hey, Tony's wife, this is his. But see, Tony, and his wife's probably listening right now, Tony said that we could fly over there and stay at his house while we toured New Zealand, and he'd buy all the food, put all the drive us all over.
And you didn't even get his full name. I'm going to kick your rear end.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, man.
And his wife said, you better not have. Okay, he didn't say that, but if we do get over there, we're going to come see you.
Heck yeah.
But anyway, the bad thing about Tony, he sent us a tank that takes the Lee's Crowns as the tallest tank.
Man, I'm depressed now.
I know. America was supposed to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and guess what? New Zealand says, well, that's nice, but we've got you beat. Tell us about the story, Russ.
Yeah, the Bob Semple tank was a tank designed by New Zealand Minister of Works, Bob Semple, during World War II. It originated out of the need to build a military hardware from available materials, and the tank was built from corrugated iron on a tractor base. Designed and built during a period of uncertainty in which New Zealand feared having to defend itself from Japanese invasion without external assistance. These tanks were a civilian effort to design and create a means to protect New Zealand.
The threat of Japan invading was real. At no point should anybody say, well, New Zealand really never had anything to worry about. You're wrong. If you went back and told the Filipinos that Japan would invade them someday, they're going, oh, no.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it could have been Australia, too. They had their sights set.
On the whole Pacific.
So these New Zealand civilians are saying, hey, we're going to fight. If they invade us, we're going to fight. So they started saying, what can we use for something like a tank?
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we've got these tractors, so we're going to put these metal boxes on them and turn them into tanks. Go ahead, Russ, I'm sorry.
New Zealand, like its neighbor, Australia, had no indigenous armored fighting vehicle industry. It was expected that armored fighting vehicles would be provided from Britain. Australia and New Zealand did have some heavy industry that could be turned to the production of armor and armored vehicles, but little had been done. The tanks were constructed without the use of any formal plans or blueprints, working from the American postcard depicting the conversion of a tractor to a tractor tank. Bob Semple and T.G. Beck improvised the design of the tanks. They used resources available to Bob Semple as Minister of Public Works. The first tank was quickly produced in the Public Works Department's Temuka workshops, and the additional 2 were built at the NZR Addington workshops. The first cost of £5,902. The second and third cost about 4,323 pounds, with a total cost of 10,225 pounds. And although the Army was only billed about 3,414 pounds.
So here's this guy, and they're coming up and they're like, hey, we're going to be invaded. So he's got a postcard from America showing this tractor tank.
Yeah.
And he's like, we got to come up with something. And he's like, okay, we're going to use the tractors that we're using for the public works, like digging sewer lines and stuff like that. And he goes, okay, we're going to pull them out, out of the fields digging sewer lines, and we're going to make them frontline tanks.
Wow.
God bless them.
I know.
Very
innovative. I mean, that's great. That's great.
I mean, if you read the story about Bob Semple, his tanks attracted public ridicule, and people were making fun of him and saying that was a stupid idea. And he's like, his country's on the verge of being invaded, and he stands up and he says, I don't see anyone coming up with better ideas.
Yeah.
So God bless New Zealand. Here's a country that said, you know what, if you invade us, we're going to be bringing tractors and farm machinery, but we're going to fight you.
We will, yeah.
There's a lot of countries that were just like, no, we give up, or no, we're neutral. You come on in. But those New Zealanders said no. You're gonna, if you're coming in, you're coming in with a bloody nose.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
It is. It really is.
It just makes me want to go see New Zealand more and more. What a great country. Just Bob Semple. Yeah, I mean, he was just a public works guy. Like he was saying, he says, "Hey, get working." Okay, Russ. Give me the stats and let me hear if my beloved Lee has been finally defeated.
Man, I don't know if I want to give these stats or not. Okay, here we go. Manufacturer was actually the Ministry of Works in Temuka. Weighed about 25.4 tons, or 25 long tons. Had a length of about 4.20 meters, or 13 foot 9 inches long. Had a width of 3.30 meters, or 10 foot 10 inches. It had a height of 3.65 meters, or 12 feet even.
Oh,
man, there it is, the stat that I didn't want to see.
All right, so the Bob Semple out of New Zealand has the crown as the tallest tank.
He probably did it on purpose, but anyway.
Thanks, Tony.
I know. It had a crew of 6 to 8 on it. Had an armor of 8 to 12.7 millimeters, which comes out to about 0.31 to 0.50 inches thick. It had 6 303 Bren light machine guns. Had a 6-cylinder diesel engine with about 127 horsepower, or 95 kilowatt.
Wow.
Had a power weight ratio of 5 horsepower per ton.
5 horsepower.
I know.
Well, that's farm machinery.
It is, I know. Had an operational range of about 160 kilometers, or 99 miles, with a max speed of about 24 kilometers an hour, or 15 miles per hour.
Well, New Zealand, you now have the crown. Congratulations.
Wow.
You know what? Let's just
good story, though.
It is a great story, and we appreciate Tony so much for putting in, and we let your brother know that it's nice to know that we have a brother in blue in New Zealand.
Heck yeah.
And we just really appreciate you contacting us. And like I said, if you're a listener and you want to tank us, or tank for us to do, or if you want us to give us a shout out, just holler.
Sure.
We are two kickback cowboys.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're here for you. And let's do. I'm just so depressed now.
I am too.
Let's just do our closing.
All righty. As always, you can contact us through our email address at twotankersandcat@gmail.com. Make sure you go and find us on Facebook if you haven't already, and give us a like. Search for the Two Tankers and Cat podcast in the Facebook search bar. You can leave us your feedback or comments, and like Charlie said, tell us what tank you want to hear about next.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't forget, I think we've had a couple of calls, but don't forget that we do have the voicemail to where you can leave a message on it. That phone number is 785-380-9844.
And I'm not sure if it's on the outside of the United States. I think it's only on the inside of
that. I'll have to do some looking into that.
We're going to have to get
I know we've had issues that when you do call it, you have to let it ring
a bunch.
Several times before it will kick into the voicemail part of it. But yeah, I need to do some more looking into that, and hopefully we can get some voice comments that we can actually add to the podcast.
We have a friend that lives in Belarus, and he can barely speak English. And when he was writing me on Facebook, he's like, I called the number not international. And I'm like, oh.
I will definitely have to look at that. Yeah.
Outside the United States, it's going to be a number. You got to have a world number. So we've been doing for, 24, 25 episodes. And
I know.
Telling these people to call us, and they can't.
I will look into it.
We'll check into that, and we'll get that out on our Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah.
Our YouTube channel is doing really well.
It really is. We've got a lot of new subscriibers on it. And
we have some new videos on there of the Indiana Tank Museum and the Russell Tank Military Museum and some other stuff. You can make fun of my big butt on there. And what else? There was a couple of comments about some of the older guys we were talking about that wanted to, learn about the World of Tanks game, and they wanted to know if they could join us and stuff like that. And I said, absolutely.
Sure.
So we're going to still work on our Discord.
Yeah.
We're trying to get our Discord all set up.
We are.
And we're looking for admins for that.
Yes.
Or people that can guide us through it.
Yeah, exactly. It's all new to us. So.
But we really appreciate it. And if, like I said, if you want to support us, it's like a lousy $2.
Yeah,
sure. And over in Europe, our dollar's not doing really well, so it's like a buck over in Europe. So, but yeah, until next time, this is Charlie.
And this is Russell. And as always, happy tanking, and have a great day.